Hi everybody, thank you for joining us. My name's Megan Stocks and this is my colleague Neve from Gordon's. We've just got a 10-minute quick talk for you about our apprenticeship in law. So we're from Gordon Solicitors, which is a medium-sized regional firm with around 180 members of staff. We've got two offices, one based in Bradford and one based in Leeds, and we provide legal advice on a range of areas from private individuals to small family businesses up to national and international companies and household names such as Morrison's, B&M, Doc Martens and even a Premier League football club. So our apprenticeship, we were one of the first law firms to offer legal apprenticeships up to qualification. Traditionally there were a lot of legal apprenticeships around doing level 3 apprenticeships or paralegal apprenticeships, but we were one of the first ones that offered the full service straight from sixth form all the way up to becoming fully qualified. So the scheme has been running since 2011 and initially we offered the SILEX route, which is the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, and we've now migrated over to the Solicitor Apprenticeship route with BPP University. Our apprenticeship scheme started because our managing partner Paul Eyre came from fairly humble beginnings himself and was passionate that all bright, ambitious individuals should be able to access professional careers and succeed in a career in law, and it shouldn't just be for those that can afford university or have other access that potentially disadvantaged students wouldn't have access to. So this September will be our 14th intake of legal apprentices, and we tend to take a handful every year, 2 to 5 generally we take every year, and they fit into different departments. So sometimes they go into our private services, so wills, powers of attorney, probate services, or corporate and banking, or our property and litigation teams. Since really we started the apprenticeship, the government have cottoned on it's a good alternative route into the profession, and now lots of other firms are also offering legal apprenticeships. They're becoming much more competitive, and more schools and students are aware of this alternative route. And what we're finding is that actually many candidates now simply just don't want to go to university. They perhaps prefer a more practical approach to learning or wanted to get stuck into working life at 17, 18. So last year we received over 100 applications, which was one of the highest responses we've had to date for 2 positions, but it's not set in stone how many positions. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's up to 5, and we've already opened our applications for the 2024 intake and have already started receiving applications for then. Our applications for this year will shut in April. So how it works is January the application process starts and April will be when that closes. We then send invitations out to interview in May. And then the interviews are generally end of May, and then we invite a handful of people back for a work experience week, which is generally at the end of July. The candidates come to see us for 3 to 4 days, and we give them a bit of exposure to all of the different departments that we have, so they spend half a day. We assess them, but also they assess us to make sure that they're happy with us and how we work as well, and get a taste of what different types of law can offer them. And then at the end of those 4 days they do a mini presentation to us about what they've learned in the week and whether they'd like to come and join us in that September, and then we give them conditional offers based on what they'll get at their results date in August, and provided they meet their required qualifications, then they start with us in September. So really a little bit about me. I was one of the first apprentices to join Gordon's about 13 years ago. So I joined in September 2012, and then I qualified in 2017 into the private client department. So I now advise on wills, powers of attorney, trust, tax planning and probate. And then a couple of years ago I became the apprenticeship lead at Gordon's, and I'm now involved in mentoring the current apprentices, reviewing all the applications we receive, and I'm involved in the interview process. So this is Neve, one of our current apprentices. So she's probably going to tell you a little bit more about her, what she does, and how the apprenticeship works. And then we've got a couple of kind of frequently asked questions that I'll ask her to give some answers to.
I wasn't sure if this was on. My name's Neve and I'm a second year legal apprentice. I'm working in commercial litigation. I started in September 2022, straight after taking my A-levels. I did English literature, business studies and media studies, but it doesn't discriminate at all. You can kind of bring in skills that you've learned from other areas, even if you haven't necessarily done law as an A-level or equivalent. As I said, I'm currently in my second year, hoping to move on to the solicitor apprenticeship next September and qualify as a solicitor in 2025. So the apprenticeship is a 6-year programme, but it is split into 2 apprenticeships. So you first of all complete the 2-year paralegal apprenticeship and then move on to the 4-year solicitor apprenticeship. In the last year you sit the SQE, which is similar to the LPC if you've heard of that you would sit if you went through the traditional route of going to university. And then you qualify as a solicitor with a full law degree, the same as if you went to university. You work in the office 4 days a week and study online with BPP University 1 day a week. You study remotely, but you do have the opportunity to go into BPP if you'd like to. But everything's very accessible online. The lecturers are great. They tend to be have a background in law anyway. At the moment, my lecturer is a former criminal barrister. So they really do talk from their experience, which I think is really helpful. Obviously learning online is a little bit different to learning in a classroom, but you kind of get used to it once you've sort of broken the ice of Teams. You get sort of stuck into it, everyone puts their microphones on, and it does just feel like a normal lesson.
And the assessments are through a combination of written exams, coursework and a portfolio. So a couple of kind of general questions that we get from people that I'll probably direct to you, Neve. So how did you find the transition from school to work?
So it's obviously going to be daunting moving from full-time education into a full-time job, but I was very excited. On my first day I never was made to feel like an outsider. From the moment you first sit at your desk you feel very supported by everybody. There's a large group of young people at Gordon's, including fellow apprentices, other trainees, newly qualified solicitors, who you'll make friends with instantly. And you're made to feel sort of at home where you are. You get a lot of support from your supervisor within your team, and I was also assigned a buddy who was an apprentice a few years older than me, who kind of showed me the ropes and was good for those sort of embarrassing questions that you don't necessarily want to ask your supervisor.
Yeah. And as the time goes on, obviously we've got apprentices that are in the first year right the way up to the 6th year. So I think at the moment there's about 20 of them between all the years, and it's quite social, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the apprentices always go out for their own Christmas drinks and month-end drinks, and the buddying system seems to work really well, and formed kind of friendship groups, because that's one thing that we did want to make sure is that it is a big transition going from kind of college and school straight into work, particularly when a lot of that young person's peers are gone to university and are meeting their own friends, and if they're still living at home and suddenly in a workplace, we just wanted to make sure that they don't feel alone and left out in a social setting, really. But that works quite well, doesn't it? And there's quite a lot of social events.
Yeah, I mean, I've made friends for life. I would say we went to Barcelona together last year, planning to go to Rome this year. So you do sort of find these friendships that will last you, and they're not just colleagues anymore. As Meg said, like, we go for drinks quite often after work. You go for team meals with your team, team lunches. When I first started, we had a big welcome lunch for the team, because I started at the same time as a trainee as well. So it was really nice to kind of have that time away from the office to get to know everybody. But there is a huge social aspect, especially at Gordon's. All staff Christmas parties, always a good one.
What tasks do you undertake as an apprentice, and what's a day-to-day day in the life of Neve?
So every day is very different, and I would say it very much depends on what department you're in. As I said, I'm working in litigation, so a lot of that is sort of preparing for trials, attending court hearings, attending client meetings, advising clients on next steps, their options for next steps, how they might want to approach the dispute. But every day is different. It's a lot of drafting emails, emails of advice, liaising with the court, calls with the court, trying to make sure that everything's ready for upcoming hearings and trials. But I would say it definitely depends on which department you're in. I was speaking earlier to a boy that's with us downstairs in commercial property. I had no idea what he was talking about, his kind of day-to-day tasks. But I would say there definitely is something for everybody, although it is sort of based around law. There's so many different areas. Each area is a completely different role. So there is something for everybody. And as you sort of progress through the apprenticeship, you'll find that you're handed more and more responsibility. I mean, even from the first day, you're handed quite a big chunk of responsibility, obviously supervised. But you'll find that you're not just stuck sort of doing the post, doing admin tasks. They get you involved, and it's very much an attitude of have a go. You know, so once we've advised a client, for example, and we'll say, right, we need to send a letter before action, people will say to me, oh, you have a go, you know, it won't be the final letter, there'll be so many track changes made to it, but I have a go at it and I do my best shot, and you find that the more you go along, the more letters that you draft, the better they become, and one day they will be sent without being supervised.
And that's what we do find, really. We do get the apprentices involved from day one. They are working alongside other people within the team, whether that be newly qualified staff, senior solicitors, right up to partners. We have an open office and all the teams kind of sit together, and it is really integrated, and we make sure that the apprentices are exposed to the legal work from day one. So we've got an apprentice in my team, and her day-to-day working life will look very different to Neve's. I don't do any sort of litigation, i.e. falling out, court hearings or anything like that. So it'll be a lot of client contact for Sophie, the apprentice in my team. So we do will writing and powers of attorney and probate work. So when somebody passes away, dealing with the aftermath of that. So client contact, it's particularly in my team, it's quite heavy client contact. You know, there'll be several client meetings a week, and we have clients coming into the office. We go visit them at home, particularly elderly people who might not be able to come in to see us, that need their will doing. And we also go and visit people in care homes. So we are what we call attorneys for people. So if somebody has lost mental capacity and can't deal with their own finances anymore and has no family to look after their finances for them, we do that for them. So we would go out and liaise with social services, the care homes, to make sure that everything is in order for that individual and that everything's sorted. So it is not just sat in the office behind a computer screen, you know, 2 to 3 times a week. Really, we're out and about visiting people. So it's really varied. Other departments, so we've got a big kind of slips and trips PI team. So you know, if we act on behalf of the supermarkets. So if you had an accident in a supermarket and you wanted to claim something against them, we generally do the defence work and put the onus back on you. And then we've got a big property team as well, so buying and selling residential homes, but also commercial properties too. Banking teams, commercial teams, so it's really varied. We offer, it's a full service firm, and what we do find is there is something for everybody. You know, each team, the work that each team does is so different, but we generally find that one of the teams fits everybody, really. And I guess probably the last question is, what we find is that how do you find studying alongside working? Because obviously, you know, you're working 4 long days a week, and then expected to do all the studying in that one day and on weekends.
Yeah, it can be difficult to balance. It's always going to be when you're working a full-time job alongside studying towards a degree, especially around exam times when you're revising. But you do find that it's manageable. It's definitely easy to balance, and you are definitely supported. You've got that designated study day to complete your revision, to attend your live sessions, as well as the portfolio and coursework. you are given enough time for it, and you are very supported by the firm. They give study leave before the exams. My supervisor is a past apprentice herself, so she understands what you're going through and understands that that's your priority. It could be a case of sort of picking up extra tasks when you've got exams coming up so that you're not feeling overwhelmed and stressed by the exams. And also because she's been there, she knows sort of what to expect. She can help out with revision, as well as the other past apprentices around the firm who are also going through the same thing. We all have our exams around a similar time. We've just taken a load in January, and afterwards everyone's sort of checking in on each other and making sure everything went okay. But you've had people that have done those areas before and who can help you out. So you definitely do feel supported by the firm.
So that's us. Hopefully we've given you a little bit more information on legal apprenticeships. We're here all day. We've got a stand downstairs, so do come and see us. We will hang around as well, unless anyone's got any immediate questions now. Yeah. Yes, we do. So generally the applications that we do receive are from current A-level students now, but yeah, absolutely. If there is a more mature student that would be wanting to start an apprenticeship later on, we would certainly consider that. Yes. But do come and have a chat with us if you want to know a little bit more. Like I said, applications are now open, so hopefully we'll see your applications. Okay, thank you.